speaking for tonight. Tonight we're talking about Ecclesiastes 6. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? Wait for that. This picture is This picture is courtesy of Karen. She looked this up on the internet. This art is called what?
Chasing wind.
Chasing the wind. Because that's what we're talking about tonight. Tonight, you guys can get a free lesson in Bible study. All right. I am now Dave Pat MA. Okay. So this is like
wow.
This is like so valuable. And this is like crazy. So, okay. Rule number 1 in Bible study. Rule number 1. Don't talk about Bible study. Rule number 1 in Bible study is try to figure out the author of the text if it's possible. Okay, some texts have harder to figure out the author than others. Ecclesiastes, historically speaking, people are guessing it's Solomon, right? The reason why that matters is because you want to figure out what perspective the author's coming from. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, Ecclesiastes 6. You can use your Bible or follow along with me up here. Okay, your reader. Rachel Hagen, you should read.
I have seen another evil under the sun, and it weighs heavily on mankind. God gives some people wealth, possessions, and honor so that they lack nothing their hearts desire. But God does not grant them the ability to enjoy them, and strangers enjoy them instead. This is meaningless and grievous evil.
Okay. When you first see a text, what do you want to start doing first? You want to start underlining and drawing out some keywords. Okay? So, like those of you guys, what do you guys think in this first sentence right here, or the colon? What are some keywords, do you think? Evil is a big keyword. What else?
Mankind.
Okay, mankind. Let's go one more.
Heavily weighted.
Right, find a verb.
I.
See.
I know.
It's all right. Some of us graduated college. Apparently, education was not worth the money. Okay, I'm just bring those percentages, and the subject is I. Right. What can we figure out? And again, the chapter breaks don't exist, right? Obviously in the original manuscripts, but because the translators break it out this way, we want to see why the translators broke it out this way. Okay. So starting with this, I have, and the verb is seen, an evil under the sun, and it weighs heavily on mankind. One of the methods that people start doing in Bible study is to try to draw things that kind of go with each other. Okay? So what I would do here on this text is I would do this. I would connect, I have seen evil, right? And then draw a conclusion from that. All right, this is kind of like super fast accelerated. Now, some people will like look at the text, go over a couple times. This is my super accelerated version. I have seen an evil. What this tells me is that this guy is wise, experienced, and in some ways grieved. From a spiritual perspective, when we start with this text, we have to ask ourselves, what is God trying to tell us? The Bible is the Word of God, so it's written by people. So knowing that, we have to think about, like, why does God choose this person to say this in this way? Right? And you think about it, like, if you've ever seen like other religious texts, like the Quran or like Buddhists have a bunch of different texts, right? The Bible is kind of unique because that it has narrative, it has like poems, it has epistles, things like that. This is kind of just like Solomon's rantings. Okay, I'm not going to be the technical term for this. It's wisdom literature. This is kind of like Solomon's rantings. So God is saying to Solomon, I want you to write this for Christians, for all mankind, right? For all of time, I want Christians to know this. And so Solomon starts saying, I have seen an evil. Right? And that should clue you in. It's like, okay, this is someone talking about their experience. And this experience, this specific one he's talking about, is inspired by God. This specific kind of evil, God is actually giving him the inspiration from the Holy Spirit to speak unto Scripture. I have seen an evil that weighs heavily on mankind. Right? And I'm just going to focus on this. This is going to pervade throughout the text. There's a burden that affects us all. And the reason why this is important is because at the end of the study, I'm going to show you some specific people through history who I think illustrate out this point. All right. There's a burden that weighs heavily on all mankind. So this message is applicable to every single person here. All right, because the scripture itself tells me that's applicable to all of you. Specifically, God gives some people wealth, possessions, and honor. So they lack nothing that their hearts desire. But God does not grant them the ability to enjoy them. Right? And strangers enjoy them instead. And this is meaningless. Again, here you see it again, grievous evil. A key to understanding Ecclesiastes is understanding Solomon's coming from a perspective of the richest man the world has ever seen and ever will see. I don't think in our lifetime we'll ever see a person who owns $6 trillion. All right, I'm just guessing because we have like Facebook and people complain all the time. Right, when you're rich, they hate it. Solomon had wealth, possessions, and honor. Right, because you can be wealthy but not have honor. But Solomon's wise too, so you know how to keep his wealth and his possessions. Moving on. And this is why I think about Solomon. A man may have 100 children and live many years, and no matter how long he lives, if he cannot enjoy his prosperity and does not receive proper burial, I say that a stillborn child is better off than he. It comes without meaning, it departs in darkness, and in darkness its name is shrouded. Though it never saw the sun or knew anything, it has more rest than does that man. Even if he lives 1,000 years, twice over, but if he fails to enjoy his prosperity, do not all go to the same place. Okay. Why do you think Solomon is focusing on proper burial? What do you guys think? Take a guess. It's kind of a step in the dark. He puts that as something really important in this section.
He doesn't have loved ones to bury him.
All right. I mean, that's one thing. Having loved ones with him when he dies. And I think that's a big part of it. What else?
Some honor issue.
It's an honor issue, right? So it's family, friends, and honor. There's one more. You guys might not guess this. This is kind of...
Is he worried about the legacy really?
Legacy and honor, yeah. There's one that's most people in the church, unless you study history, you won't want to get.
Is it some kind of symbolism for afterlife?
It's afterlife. If you don't believe me, you can look this up later. Before the Minor Prophets, right, and Solomon is about, like 900 BC. Minor Prophets are going to be around 600, 700 BC. They don't really have a theology of the resurrection. You can look this up and get home, okay? That's why the Sadducees, right, in the New Testament, what do they not believe in? The resurrection. Where'd that come from? That's because throughout history, right, the early period of Israel, they didn't really understand there's a resurrection. It's not until the Minor Prophets, right, start prophesying, this is what the Lord will do. When you guys are in exile, this is what the Lord will do. They start getting visions of like, wait a minute, there's a resurrection, there's a life after this. So in Solomon's head is basically proper burial is like at the end of a life, that's it. Right? To be properly placed before God and to be honored as a person who followed God. Right? As a Christian, like we want not to be buried, but we want to resurrect. But in his kind of thinking, it's more like, I just want to be properly placed before God, and then the cards are in God's hands. I'm not really sure what happens. Right? So the only thing I can really plan for is to be properly placed before God's hands and to say, God, here's my life. That's a lot of application for us too, right? Even if you don't believe in the resurrection at this point, we all want to stand before God one day and say, God, this is my life. Right? This is my life. I didn't waste it. Right? I lived it out for you. The people who buried me, right? The people who are at my funeral testify of my life. That the life I lived was unto God and not unto myself. That's in Solomon's head. Because it says, if you do not receive proper burial, right? If you do not receive proper burial, it's better to be a stillborn child. Right? It's better pretty much not to be born, to be shrouded in darkness. Because you do not want to stand in front of God on Judgment Day. Right? Solomon, even before resurrection, understands this idea. You do not want to stand before God and to say, God, well, I lived a good life, but I was kind of selfish, and I hurt people, and people hated me, and no one came to my funeral because I suck. And I hope that's all right. Right? Old Testament and New Testament. God says, it's probably better for you if you weren't even born. Because there is an eternal judgment that comes after this life. So Solomon, even without his New Testament theology, understands that. Right? That there's the wrath of God is against those who live for themselves and are selfish. Because you can't fail to enjoy your posterity. And that's eternal. That's an eternal sense behind that. All right. This is where we get to specifics. Again, remember that Solomon is the wisest man the world has ever seen. You guys remember some of the narratives? The queen of what's the H? Remember? Or S? Sheba, right? It's like North Africa area. The queen of Sheba visits Solomon. And you guys remember the story? She sees Solomon and she's like, wow, your people must be extremely excited and happy that you are the ruler, because you're the wisest ruler I've ever seen. Right? She was so impressed with Solomon that she paid tribute to Solomon. So this is the person who's writing this. So Solomon basically is stating wisdom. In my life, in my wisdom, this is what I know for sure. Okay? And this is not some like 15-year-old, right? You guys hear like, teenagers talk, in the class, like, life is like, you're like, whatever. But like, Uncle Johnny is like, life is like this. You're like, oh, you've seen enough life to say it's like this. Okay? So Solomon is like Uncle Johnny to the power of 10 or something. Okay? Maybe the power of 9, because Uncle Johnny. So Solomon states in his wisdom, right? Everyone's toil is for the mouth. What do you think that means? Do you know what that means? It's pretty big. People want to get by, right? They want to have enough food for the next day to make sure they don't die. That's like, our parents, like, it's like, make sure you have enough money to get food and groceries. And it's for the mouth. It's a very obvious statement. Its appetite is never satisfied. It's funny, right? Because like he's kind of playing the words a little bit now. What does that mean? Appetite is never satisfied. If you guys have been to buffets, and like back in the day at that feast too, right? It's not like feasts are exclusive to us. Back in the day at that feast, they know what it was like to be full. When he makes this statement, he's kind of playing with that idea. We eat to be full. There's a kind of a hunger in our lives that can never be satisfied. If you guys are in your 20s, right, or your 30s, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? There's kind of like this restlessness in our soul that you feel like even though you have a lot of things, you feel like you're just not happy. I was reading an article with Carmen this week about like the quarter-life crisis, right? Like the subject of all John Mayer songs, the quarter-life crisis, right? It's often described really well. It's like you go to work and then like you have lunch with the coworkers and you would tweet out what you have for lunch, and then you go to work again and you're like, oh, I work on this project. You go and sit till like 6, and you go out after work with your coworkers, and maybe like you go home, watch some TV, and you go to sleep, and you get up, you do it all over again. And like, you have a girlfriend, and you guys are like, want to get married, but you're not really sure when to get married. And like, you want a new car, but you don't really need a car, but you feel like you should get one because it makes you happy. It's like random quarter-life crisis stuff. I think in every generation, right, that happens. Sometimes we want to make it seem like our situation is unique. And in some ways, our situation is unique because we're like one of the first generations to have, money, career, and like relationships early on in life, right? Our parents couldn't choose the careers. A lot of them couldn't choose their spouses. A lot of them couldn't choose where they wanted to live. We can. And even with all those things that our parents didn't have, we're still kind of like restless. This is 3,000 years old. All right, it's 3,000 years old. It's pretty wise. He's talking about that restlessness. All right, let's see where he goes with this. What advantage have the wise over fools? And what do the poor gain by knowing how to conduct themselves before others? What do the wise have over fools? God asked Solomon, ask for anything, I'll give it to you. And Solomon thinks, right? He's like, I can ask for like strength in military conquest. Or I can just straight up ask for money. I can straight up ask for like spiritual powers and call down fire like Elijah. Solomon asked for wisdom. God says, it's good that you ask for wisdom. But Solomon at the end of his life says, what advantage does the wise have over fools? And again, this is why I think the office is important. Okay? He says, even if I weren't wise, what advantage do I have by being wise? And what do the poor gain? And again, if you think about the author, what does the poor gain by knowing how to conduct themselves before others? Solomon's talking about the things like, even if I didn't have my wisdom, even if I didn't have my wealth, my life's pretty much the same. He's basing at the end of his life. I really had no advantage by being more wealthy and by being more wise. It's kind of a crazy statement. Okay, this wisdom literature is kind of dark, right? Because the Old Testament, right, there's a lot of theology not fleshed out yet. So this kind of questioning of life, it's kind of questioning the values of the world. I think these things are answered more in the New Testament, but in the Old Testament, you started seeing these questions appear. Is what is life if it's only in the physical realm? Is there any advantage of being rich? Is there any advantage of being wise? And I like this. Better what the eye see than the roving appetite. This is kind of poetic. So I'm going to ask you guys what you think. I'm going to ask Chris Cheng Chin, because he's an artist. Or maybe Alex Shaw just came in. What does it mean when it says, better what the eye see than the roving of the appetite? If you look at the formatting in your Bibles, I think it's bracketed out like this, because it's kind of in a kind of a poetic kind of style. So you know that this is more like poetry versus like direct statements kind of stuff. So think about this. Better what the eye sees than the roving of the appetite. In case you want to take a guess.
I get it.
I thought about this too. This is my guess on what it means. Up to now, Solomon is saying, if you possess these things, it means nothing. If you possess wisdom, like he does, no one ever is wise Solomon. Solomon's wisdom was a spiritual gift. Solomon's wealth was a derivative of that spiritual gift. I think what Solomon is saying is, even if you're not like him, and if you don't want to see it from afar, that's actually better than having the ability, the roving, the chasing after the things that you want. I'm trying to explain that more clearly. In some ways, I think what he's saying is it's better to be a person who has no ability to actually get these things than to just be frustrated and have an education, to have all the ability in the world. Right? People say, one of the worst statements, oh, I see so much potential in you. Right? And when you hear those statements, like at a certain point in life, you're like, I'm so tired of that statement. I'm 35 years old. Okay? I want to stop having potential and I actually want to start doing things. But what Solomon is saying, it's better just to see it from afar and never chase it than to feel like you can have it and to always chase it. It's like me and Carmen watch The Voice right before we got here, right? Like reality TV shows. People are like, if I win this show, I will be so happy, right? When you realize, like, you'll be famous for like maybe 3 months, and then you'll sell CDs for another 6 months, and then no one, like, name 4 American Idols. Right, none of you can. You guys all came flip stairs. Okay, most of you can. It's so meaningful.
I'm just meaning.
Or like, name the NBA champion 3 years ago.
Huh?
Who won the NBA championship 3 years ago?
Lakers.
No.
Guess
Boston.
It's first.
I don't even know. Okay, the girls don't know. Point is.
It was?
All right. Basically, what he's saying, right? Okay, bring it back. I want to go tangent too long. Sometimes it's actually better to feel like you can't have these things than to feel like, if I just work harder, I can get these things. Solomon is saying, just let it go. Look at it from afar and don't try chasing it. Right? I'm not sure if I shared like these stories with you guys. I share this all the time in my life, but it was very convicting to me. When I worked at LA Fitness, right? It was my first time ever doing sales. My first 2 weeks at LA Fitness, I didn't do any sales. Right? I basically just showed up, clocked in 8 hours a day, and then like went home. It's kind of sad. Okay, and then I started getting better and better, started understanding sales. So if a good salesman is able to close, I think like 40 to 50%. People who sit down, right? So if you guys sit down in front of somebody, they can like sell that person 40-50% of the time. At one point, I was selling 70-something%. Right? My closing percentage was like one of the highest in the nation. Right? At the end of my first year, I sold for LA Fitness a quarter of $1,000,000 in training. All right, $250,000, was transacted on my desk. Okay, and then so some months I made a bunch of money off commissions and stuff. This is like a year before I started seminary, right? So I was kind of thinking about seminary, kind of thinking about missions, stuff like that. I'll tell you, I'm not like super holy and like above everything, right? There's a temptation, I know you guys feel this too, to like, man, I'm really good at this. I'm just gonna pursue this, right? And like I can make money, and then people will look at me like, you're so successful, right? Like sales is not the best job in the world, like so awesome, your parents are impressed. But taking home 6 figures when you're like 20 years old is impressive, you know? And the one thing that I guess kind of kept me away from that, like wanting to pursue sales for the rest of my life, was actually think through the logical conclusions. What if I made 6 figures a year? Is my life better? Right? Would I have more of the things I wanted? And honestly, it was actually sitting down and really thinking things through. It's like, you know what? Life doesn't really get better. You just get more taxes. Right? And your chances of getting audited are a lot higher. I don't know if you guys knew that. If you make over 100,000, your chances of getting audited are a lot higher. So, this encourages me. This too is meaningless. A chasing after the wind. We're going to start finishing out this text. Whatever exists has already been named, and what humanity is has been known. And no one can contend with someone who is stronger. What does this mean? I know people don't break down Ecclesiastes word by word, but I think every word in the Bible is there for a reason. What exists has already been named, and what humanity is has been known. Okay, so you know, there's nothing new under the sun, right? You said that before. But no one can contend with someone who is stronger. What does that mean? I think if you take in context with what we read before, I think we can kind of figure that out. Adam from the peanut gallery, what do you think?
Can't change your lot in life.
Can't change your lot in life? Who is that someone who is stronger? Because he kind of names out a specific kind of a thing. Who is that? Huh? God, I definitely think God is one of them. But what else? Jesus. Honestly, you know what I think he's actually talking about here? I think he's actually talking about. Death. Right? He's talking about proper burial in the section before. You can really try and blame technology. Okay, I'm pretty sure you're gonna die at some point. There's like people like celebrities now, right? They freeze themselves in ice, right? Hoping that one day we'll find a cure and like resurrect them. I'm just gonna go on record here. I'm pretty sure you're still gonna die. Right? We've been dying for thousands of years. I think we're gonna continue to die for the rest of the time. Okay? You cannot contend with someone who's stronger. You cannot contend with death. Two things in life for sure, right? What are they? Taxes. Death and taxes. Moving on. The more the words, the less the meaning. And how does that profit anyone? I think from Solomon, you guys remember the Bible? Solomon wrote thousands of songs, right? Thousands of them. You know? Every day he's like, it's like, hey, scribes, listen to me. I'm gonna say something smart. The early bird. It's like, no. But at the end of his life, Solomon's like, you know what? I say all those wise things, but how does that really profit me? Right? I mean, I have money and I have wealth and wisdom. At the end of the day, I go to bed, I eat food just like everybody else. I die like everybody else. It doesn't really profit me. It doesn't really prolong my life. And so here it comes to the end of the matter. For who knows what is good for a person in life? During the few and those days, they pass through like a shadow. Who can tell them what will happen under the sun after they are gone? One of the things I want to teach you about the Old Testament is supposed to teach you to look for Jesus. Right? The Old Testament, and what does Paul say? It's like a schoolmaster, right? It's a schoolmaster that doesn't lead you to Jesus. If you look at Job, the end of Job says the same thing. It's like, who will contend for me? Who will advocate for me? Throughout the Old Testament, you see this language of like, you know what? If only God himself would come down here and save me, if he would contend for me, if he would fight for me, if he would bring meaning to these days, right, then my life would be complete. All of history comes down to look to Jesus and to say, what does my life mean? I think that's what happened in Ecclesiastes, right? I think the reason I think Ecclesiastes is an awesome book is because first of all, I think we can understand that in our situation. Being like, Asian Americans having education, having careers and all that stuff. But it's that having a lot of stuff and having a lot of opportunity and potential, and then realizing it doesn't really make us better. You can go on Facebook, you meet your friends from high school, your friends who work at Applebee's, all right, or who where's the janitor? At the end of the day, we're all the same, right? It really doesn't matter if you work for like a Fortune 50 company or if you work as a janitor. At the end of the day, y'all breathe the same air, kind of eat the same food, y'all go to the same place. So someone basically asking the question, what do these days mean? What is the meaning of life then? In the Old Testament, like the New Testament, we're looking like, without looking at Jesus, without a resurrection, okay, nothing matters. If everything in this life is only for this life, then nothing matters. Because when you die, all right, you don't get to get buried with all your toys. You're naked came into the world, naked leave this world. So, tonight I'm going to show you two examples. Tonight I'm a historian now. All right, I want to show you two examples, one bad and one good, that I think that we can kind of look at. All right. The first example, if you can figure out who this first person is, shout it out first. I'm going to give you 3 pictures. It's Michael Jackson. It's someone kind of unknown. Who built these 3 hotels?
Win.
But also give away. Steve Wynn. All right. Does anyone know Steve Wynn more than just the name? Raise your hand if you know who he is. Next one. You know who he is?
The hotel guy.
Okay. I saw 60 Minutes on him, right? And I honestly was about to cry then because his life, in some ways, was like so bittersweet, right? And I'm going to show you why in a second. But he did build Bellagio, Treasure Island. He did also build the Wynn in his life to show how awesome he is. All right. Steve Wynn is an interesting guy because his dad was actually like a legal bingo parlor runner. All right. So as a kid, his family was always caught up in the gambling business. And a lot of kind of gamblers. When his dad passed away, what was he left with? A bingo parlor and $500,000 in debt. Right? And so Steve Wynn was like, all right, so what am I going to do with this? He basically picks up where his dad left off, running the bingo parlor. He turns it more successful, pays off some of his debt, and starts buying properties in Vegas. The great thing about Steve Wynn, why people think he's successful, is he has an eye for perfection. That's also why people hate him, right? But it's not here. But I think it was the Mirage. It was one of his first big properties, right? And it's basically he had the idea of doing these super resorts before everyone thought of the idea of doing super resorts. It's in very much a way I think he's kind of like Donald Trump, right? He's like, if we build something that's ridiculous, right? Like more money than anyone's ever spent, and more ridiculous and glamour, like white tigers, than anyone's ever seen, people will come to it, And he was right. That's how he kind of built his fortune, because he had this eye for perfection. He wanted things a certain way, he's a control freak, and then people really like that. Right? Kind of like a Steve Jobs, kind of like, I want everything to look the way I like it. I'm going to show you some of his achievements. As of today, 2011, net worth $2.3 billion, 500th richest man in the world. He's Las Vegas legend. He's a Time 100 most influential. He actually now has casinos also, not just in Vegas, but Macau. Asia's next casino place. Some of his whack attacks, I want to use this word. What's interesting about a guy who is in the casino business his entire life, right? There's a lot of shadiness that kind of comes with the business. So one of the things with Steve Wynn's life is that very early on, because you need money to get started, right? To start building properties. Obviously, the Mirage was not one of his first properties. So when he started getting the Desert Inn, I think the Golden Nugget or whatever, he needed financiers. So one of the financiers he got early on was a mobster, or it was a guy actually associated with the mob. He basically took money from this guy, kind of overlooking, right, some of his kind of shady background. He took money from this guy. He got criticized for it, but the rest of his career he continued to be associated with the mob. So if you look at Steve Wynn, right, some of the controversies with him is that in his hotels he keeps trying to host mob bosses and stuff in his hotels. right? And investigators are like, hey, I don't think you should be seen with these guys. It's like it connects you to like organized crime and all that stuff, right? This might be related, might be unrelated, but one of his daughters actually, at one point in his life, was actually kidnapped. Right? Was actually kidnapped. He got a ransom note, say, pay me like $1.3 million. Right, to get your daughter back. He ends up paying the ransom. Thankfully, the crook was actually caught because he was in Newport Beach trying to buy a Ferrari with cash. Right. And then this criminal was actually caught. Another reason why I kind of like his life is we talked a little about in the Ecclesiastes passage about why the wise are no better than fools. There's an illusion, I think, in our culture that like if you have power, if you're smart, if you run a corporation, that you're like immune to things, right? As if like no one can take things from you. This is why I love the story about the Mirage takeover. The more money you have in life, the more exposed you are to market factors and to other things, right? I think sometimes you feel like, if you're poor, you're like at the mercy of the people. Trust me, if you're super rich, you're also at the mercy of the people. When you build a hotel like the Mirage, you cannot do with private funding. Right? We'll talk about it in the finance lessons later on. Right? But basically what you need to do is it's called a public offering. You basically need to sell stocks of your company so that people will buy so you can give more money to build the Mirage, right? So when he built the Mirage, he basically turned his company public. Said like, hey guys, invest in my company, you can all invest, we can all own this together. Problem with that is that when it's a public company, you don't own it. So the person who buys the most shares of the stock, right, can basically take over, control the company. So he was running the Mirage, everything was going well. He starts spending money like crazy. Because again, he's a perfectionist, right? And he's kind of like, I want like more white tigers, or I want more magic. Some of the shareholders are not happy with this, right? Another guy, Kirk Kerkorian, is also a billionaire, basically said, you know what, the stock's going down, I'm gonna bid take him out. So basically, Kirk Kerkorian and the MGM group, at some point in the 90s, do a hostile takeover. And basically what that means is that you don't want to sell, but because your stock is so low, you become basically like weak to market pressures. Like people have enough money to buy you out, right? And so because the stock was going down, people owned shares of companies like, we want our money back. Kerkorian's like, hey, I got money. All you gotta do is kick, Steve went out. And they're like, all right, we'll sell. Steve gets kicked out of his own company. So he loses the Mirage. He built the Mirage. Okay, he loses it to Kirk Kerkorian. He was like, heck of this. If you read some news stories on this, he was super pissed, and I think he still is. But when I read that story, I'm like, man, dude, like that's why I think history is important. Because when I see it from that perspective, I'm like, there's no benefit being rich. You're just more exposed to other people, right? More people want your stuff. He's an awesome. I don't want to make fun of him, but I think his life had just a lot of tragedies, right? And this is what made me cry pretty much on 60 Minutes, because like the way he talked about this. He's a billionaire. He loves perfection. He loves decorating hotels. One of the things he has personally is like a private art collection, right? He loves beautiful things. That's what he kind of says to himself. He has a private art collection. He has like boats, collects all these things, right? And he's like, I just have an eye for beauty, and I just love. I don't buy it just to show how rich I am, but I buy it because I love to look at it and it brings me pleasure. He actually has a rare eye disease. All right. Basically, what this disease does is that his eyes are slowly wasting away. So day by day, he's actually getting more and more blind. During the 60 Minutes interview, he's basically showing like the interviewer like his art collection. He's like, "Can you actually see this painting?" He's like, "I can't see it anymore." And I thought about that, and I was like, "Man, that is so ironic." Right? Like to love art, all right, and to spend your life chasing after beautiful things, but at the end of your life, you lose your eyes. Right? It's like your entire life, you're trying to like gather things for your eyes to see, right? To satisfy this appetite you have for like beauty. And then not being able to enjoy it at the end of your life. When you finally have enough money to buy whatever you want, you can't enjoy it. I mean, that's the fickleness of this life. I want you guys to feel this, because this is the passage of Ecclesiastes we're talking about. There's a fickleness of life. That if you chase after things of this world, do not think that God's going to give it to you. Okay? Because that's not the point. This life is not the point. You want to do things in this life, but if you try to hold on to things in this life and think this is all this is, that's not the point. That's not why we're here on earth. Okay? So here's my second person. You guys know who founded Methodism? You know who Methodist? No one knows what that is. Ian Carmack got married at a Methodist church. That's the first church I attended, was a Methodist church. Take a guess. You know, right? John Wesley. Who is John Wesley? That guy. All right, John Wesley, founder of Methodism. I don't know if you guys ever think about this, but think about where Christianity really blossomed, right? Obviously, it was early churches in Israel, North Africa area. But we think about it as like a European religion. Name 3 famous German Christians right now. Name 3 famous Christians from Germany right now.
Do they have to be alive?
They have to be alive. At this moment, living in Germany right now. Or name 3 French. Or name 3 Spanish Christians. Or name 3 Swiss Christians. Or 3 Danish Christians. If Christianity is a European religion, just name 3 of them from the European continent. You guys have it. Matt Redman. Where is he from though? He's from England. Right? Actually, if you actually named English guys, you could actually name a couple. Right? N.T. Wright, some of you guys have heard that name before. He's a famous Anglican writer. And all the Passion guys are actually from England. You guys ever wonder why it's weird that England still has some famous Christians, but like the rest of Europe is pretty much dark? There are periods in history, right, where it seems like Christianity is going to die off the face of the earth. And God causes, and he works in individuals, right? God raises up individuals to spark a revival that sweep over the land. John Wesley was that guy. In the 1700s, a lot of people becoming super liberal, right? Because like, oh, Christianity is kind of like, it's rules for life, it's nice tradition, we have a lot of history in it, but whatever. And a lot of people, like, they would go to church, but there'd be no spiritual fire in their hearts. John Wesley, when he came up with the idea of Methodism, right? Because he basically saw there's a group called Pietists. They're actually from Germany. But on a boat, he was hanging out with these Pietists. And one of the things I was really impressed by is that, like, at one point during his travel from Europe to Americas, there was like a huge storm. It was going to, throw the boat apart. And all the sailors were like running around, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna die. And the Pietists were singing psalms and praying. And then John Wesley at that point in his life realized, like, wait a minute. There's a strangeness to their hearts, right, that should be present in all Christians. And so John Wesley came up with this idea of Methodism or the holiness movement. And basically who's the champion of is that we can't just believe that because now we're Christians, that holiness comes naturally. John Wesley firmly believed that we have to actively work out our faith. Well, not just with words and by attending church, but we have to work out our faith and saying, God, what now in my life? He actually believed that you can actually, at one point in your life, right, be void of all conscious sin. All right, and I said conscious sin because we all sin unknowingly, right? But he honestly believed that at one point you can actually work out like all the things that God put you on your conscience, right? You cannot sin against your conscience anymore. I don't personally believe that, but I can see where he's coming from, right? But what did the kind of theology lead to? He was an abolitionist. All right, abolitionist basically means he was against slavery. It was really unpopular being in slavery for a while. You guys ever watched the movie Amazing Grace? Right, where there's a great scene when Wilberforce is like, I think slavery is wrong, and the entire parliament stands up, it's like, shut up, you're so dumb, oh my gosh, you're so dumb. Right? That's pretty much what it was like. And like, there's another scene in that movie where like Wilberforce is like, okay, we're gonna have an abolition meeting, right? And he's like in parliament, okay? He's like, let's have an abolition meeting to fight slavery. 2 people show up. Like one of the guys is like his friend. Right? I'm like, dude, that's so sad. Right? And like, there was no benefit of being an abolitionist. But he was like, you know what? If we're Christians, we're abolitionists. Founder of chapels, provider for orphans, tied 98%. These all go together. I think at one point his net worth, I think $2 was like something like $3 to $4 million. All right. At the end of his life, he died poor. He pretty much left no money for his children. Right? You can believe whatever you want about that. All right. He pretty much left no money to his children. One of the stories that I love about John Wesley, they England pay taxes, right? And so back in these days, they don't have electronic records. So they come to your house and they look at your possessions. So in London, they're like, dude, this is ridiculous. John Wesley is a rich guy. Think about megachurch pastors in America, right? Even in the Billy Graham Association, they run the budget of millions. Joel Osteen is like definitely millions. All right, and so John Wesley is a rich guy too. They're like, but he doesn't pay any taxes. I don't understand what's going on. So they audit him. They go to his house and they look through his stuff, and he's like, we found 4 silver spoons, and you have like no silverware, and you have like nothing here. Where are you hiding your stuff? And he's like, and he basically told them, I gave it all away. He's like, you're lying. He's like, I gave it away to provide for orphans, I gave it to provide chapels, I gave it to the poor. And like, as much as they searched, they could not like go against the story. He basically gave away $3 million of his wealth. He basically lived on like nothing, right? So at the end of his life, he pretty much died poor. He had like no legacy to give to his children. But at the end of his life, because of the movement he founded, 500 pastors directly associated with him, 135,000 Methodists at the end of his life. You want to talk about revival? How about 135,000 person church? Right? That's a revival. He himself provided a bunch of orphanages for England. Right? I don't know this number, 98%. Right? Most of us tithe 10% if we're lucky. Right? He kind of flipped that over. 98%. If I don't need it, then I'm not going to keep it. And so kind of conclusion for tonight, I want you guys to see one of the things he said about life. Gain all you can, save all you can, give all you can. These are interesting. When I first heard this, I'm like, I really want to know what you mean by this. Gain all you can, it means work hard. As Christians, we shouldn't be lazy. We shouldn't just be like, oh, it's money, it doesn't matter, I'm not going to work, I'm calling sick. I tell Carmen to call him sick all the time. So you get paying salary. But one of his points is that don't try to be lazy. I actually had a friend come up to me, he's like, hey David, how do I get a job where I can just do much nothing and get paid? It was a real conversation I had with somebody, right? He's like, David, is there a job where like I can pick up phones but no one ever calls? Right? Like, what are you talking about? John Wesley, gain all you can. I don't want to be against the Asian American culture and be like, being a doctor is bad or being an engineer is bad. There's nothing wrong with those things. Right? I think you should work as hard as you can. Because the opposite is to basically be lazy. And I don't think as Christians we should be lazy. Okay? And here's the second part though. Save all you can. And you think you know what this means. This is not what you think it is. It doesn't mean put in a 401k. Okay? Because if you have a salary job, it's really easy to do, oh, my employer contributes this much and da-da-da-da. What he actually means by this is don't spend money on things you don't need. Right? Remember that story I told you about he didn't get tithed 98%? He was able to do that because he didn't buy anything. He was actually one of the richer people in England, and he didn't buy anything. Right? That's why people were surprised at how little possessions he had. This flies in the face, seriously, right? So you guys in America, this flies in the face of a lot of our Christian leaders today. Because a lot of Christian leaders today are rich. They have big houses and nice cars to prove it. And honestly, that kind of mentality trickles down to the congregation. Right? Because you can be like, well, this guy has a jet, I don't have a jet. Well, yeah, like a $50,000 car, it's the same thing. It's the same, scale. What John Wesley was saying is save all you can. One of his things is like, it's not your money, right? You work hard, but that ability to work hard was given to you by God. So if it's God's ability and God's money, it's not yours, don't spend it on yourself. So you give it away. Give all you can, 98%. 135,000 Methodists, right? And the leader that they looked up to actually practically preached. He didn't just stay in the pulpit and be like, hey guys, I think you should, live a simple life. All right, I'm gonna take off my buggy with my 8 horses. Thoroughbred horses. All right. He's like, all right, I'm gonna walk home after this. Give all you can. And I love this statement. Money is a precious gift. It should not be wasted on trivialities. Do not spend money on luxury foods, but be content with simple things that your body needs. Ornaments too, whether of the body, house, or garden, are a waste and should be avoided. Do not spend in order to gratify your, you see how I picked this? Vanity. Or to gain the admiration of others. The more you feed your pride in this way, the more it will grow within you. I think John Wesley read Ecclesiastes. All right. Don't chase things of this world. All right, I'm telling you from Scripture. All right, God Himself speaking to you from Scripture. Don't chase the things of this world. Before we start the financial series, I want to kind of set it up. There is a way to live your life, right? That can seem very Christian. You come to church every day and do all the ministry things. That can seem very Christian, but yet it's still very worldly. All right. And I'm telling you this because Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes, right? And Solomon was a wise Christian. And he, at the end of his life, still said, don't chase after vanities, because I did. Something interesting, when you look at the descriptions of Solomon's wealth, right? He had many wives, many horses from Egypt, That structure if you can, some of you guys that have cross-reference Bibles, is the exact same structure of the things you're not supposed to have in Deuteronomy. When Moses told the Israelites going into Canaan, he said, specifically, do not let your kings have many wives. Do not let your kings have horses from Egypt. The narrative for Solomon is a direct match of that. All right, Solomon did exactly the things he was not supposed to do. There is a way to live, right, that seems very, very Christian on the outside. But in the heart, it's very much corrupt, and it's very much chasing after things in this world. All right? I want to encourage you guys go to a good church. All right? I talk to a lot of leadership all the time. The leadership meetings are tough because there's a lot of things that leadership wants to do, people don't want to participate in. Right? We have fundraisers, and people don't contribute. And, we have Aquaviva, and people don't come, things like that. I hope that God speaks to you guys individually. Right? There are so many things I know you guys can invest in. I know you guys personally know people, know missionaries who are going overseas. You guys can invest in. You guys personally know ministries in the church that need more people that you guys can invest in. Right? You guys personally know deal websites you guys can buy things from, and clothing you want to buy. Right? There's a choice every day, guys. I hope that we continue, as we read the Bible, it really affects our lives. All right, let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you just for this time and for your word and how you speak to us. Lord, I thank you for Solomon. I thank you how you speak to us through him, and I thank you how you speak to us through Steve Wynn's life and John Wesley's life. And God, all these things, remember that you have a special plan for us, or us personally, that are different from these lives we just studied tonight. And God, I pray that you speak to our hearts, convict us, lead us, and give us the ability to follow you and to pursue you. God, keep us faithful and keep us holy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Everyone break into small groups and get snacks.